Maria Delgado had $11 in her checking account and a meeting with her landlord in 2 hours that she wasn't looking forward to. She was 34, a single mother working the early shift at a diner in Tulsa, and the rent was due in a way that made her stomach hurt every time she thought about it. But it was a Tuesday morning. The sun was doing that pale gold thing over the parking lot, and she had just enough time to grab coffee before her shift if she hurried. That's when she saw him, an older man, maybe 60, sitting against the brick wall outside the gas station with a cardboard sign that just said "Hungry, God bless." His coat was too thin for the chill still hanging in the morning air, and his hands were wrapped around nothing, like he was trying to remember what warmth felt like. Maria almost walked past. She had $11. She had rent. She had a 6-year-old at home who needed shoes for the spring. Every responsible bone in her body told her to keep walking. She didn't keep walking. She went into the gas station, bought a breakfast sandwich, a coffee, and a banana, and walked back outside. She crouched down so she was eye level with him, which surprised him. Most people who stopped at all stayed standing, like they didn't want to get too close. "I'm Maria," she said, handing him the bag. "I figured you could use this more than I could use a fancy coffee this morning." He looked at the bag, then at her, and something in his face shifted. Not quite surprise, more like recognition. "Name's Walter," he said. His voice was rough but careful, like a man who chose his words. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," Maria said. "I wanted to." She almost left it there, but something made her sit down on the curb next to him for a minute. Just a minute, while he unwrapped the sandwich with hands that shook slightly from the cold. He told her he'd been a machinist for almost -1 years before the plant closed and the bills outpaced the unemployment checks, before his wife passed and the house went with her, in a way that grief sometimes takes everything else down with it. He didn't tell it for sympathy. He told it like a man giving an accounting of his life because someone had finally asked. Maria told him about her daughter, about the diner, about the landlord meeting she was dreading. She didn't know why she told a stranger on a sidewalk things she hadn't even told her sister. Maybe because Walter listened the way people rarely do, not waiting for his turn to talk, just listening. "You're gonna be okay," he said when she stood to leave. "I don't know how I know that, but I know it." Maria smiled, thanked him, and went to work. She didn't think much more about it that day, except for a small warm feeling underneath the dread of the landlord meeting, which, as it turned out, went better than she'd feared. Her landlord agreed to a partial payment and an extension. Small mercies. She didn't see Walter again for almost 3 weeks. When she did, it was outside the same gas station, except this time he was standing, not sitting. He had on a clean jacket, his hair was cut, and there was a folder under his arm. He spotted her first. "Maria," he called out, and the way he said her name made it clear he'd been hoping to run into her. She crossed the lot, surprised at how glad she was to see him. "Walter, you look great. What happened?" He smiled, and it was a different smile than the one from 3 weeks ago. Lighter, like something had been set down. "A man stopped by where I was sitting, maybe a week after you did. Saw me eating the sandwich you bought. Actually, still had the wrapper folded up in my coat pocket. Don't ask me why I kept it. We got to talking. Turns out he owns a small machine shop outside the city. Needed someone who actually knew the old equipment, not just computer-run stuff. I worked on machines like that for 30 years. Maria's hand went to her mouth. "Walter, that's incredible." 3 weeks in, he said. "Got my first paycheck Friday. Found a room to rent. It's not much, but it's mine." He paused, and his eyes got a little wet, though he blinked it back fast, like a man not used to letting himself feel things in front of people. "I want to give you something, Walter. You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," he said, echoing her own words back to her with a small smile. "I want to." He opened the folder. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten, careful block letters like a man who took pride in legible work. It was a letter. He didn't make her read it there. He just placed it in her hands and said, "Read it when you have a quiet minute. Not now. Now isn't quiet." That night, after her daughter was asleep, Maria sat at her kitchen table and unfolded the paper. "Maria, you probably don't know this, But the morning you stopped, I had decided that was going to be my last day. I won't go into the details, but a man gets to a point where the cold and the hunger and the invisibility wear a hole clean through him, and he starts looking for the exit. I was looking for it that morning, and then a stranger crouched down to my level, not above me, not in a hurry, and treated me like a person who still had a name worth knowing. I don't know if you saved my life that day, but I know you gave me a reason to stay in it one more day. And one more day turned into the day the man from the shop walked by. So this is me telling you, the sandwich mattered. The 5 minutes mattered. You mattered to a man you'd never met and might never have thought of again. I hope someone does for you one day what you did for me, exactly when you need it most. With gratitude always, Walter. Maria read it twice, then a third time, tears slipping down before she even registered she was crying. She thought about how close she'd come to walking past him that morning. $11 and 100 good reasons to keep her head down. She folded the letter carefully and kept it in the drawer by her bed, where it still is today. Not because it was valuable in any way a bank could measure, but because it reminded her of something she never wanted to forget, that the things we give away freely, expecting nothing back, are sometimes the very things that come back to us tenfold, in ways we could never have planned. She still works the early shift at the diner. She still doesn't have much, but every morning, when she walks past that gas station, she looks for whoever might need a sandwich and 5 minutes of someone treating them like they still matter. Because sometimes, the most expensive things in the world don't cost anything at all.